Today we're diving headfirst into the shadowy realm of cryptozoology, the study of hidden creatures. From the well-known legends of Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, to the eerie whispers of a creature that supposedly lurks in the depths of Lake Superior. This episode is packed with mysteries that will send shivers down your spine. So grab a blanket, dim the lights, and prepare to venture into the unknown. Welcome to Beneath the Shadows, where we delve into the mysteries, secrets, and legends that blur the line between fact and folklore. I'm your host, Travis Fenn, coming at you this Wednesday from the darkness of the Shadow Realm, my office studio here in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and I'm thrilled to have you join me for yet another journey into the unknown. Before we wade into the murky waters of today's topic, I want to take a moment to thank you all for being here. Your support is what keeps the show alive, uncovering the stories that history, science, and sometimes even common sense try to bury. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider leaving a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you may be listening. Please go ahead and leave that rating and review. It takes just a minute, and I appreciate the fuck out of everyone who does it. Your feedback helps us grow immensely and reach more lovers of mystery, folklore, and the bizarre. All the strange shit that you love, someone else loves too, so go let them know that it's a good show to find that strange shit. So be sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and if you're craving even more untold stories, eerie encounters, and exclusive content, join us on Instagram or Patreon for bonus material. Patreon episodes will resume on Valentine's Day, Friday, February 14th, so keep an eye out for that, and thank you for the support. Now, let's step beyond the veil of the unknown and into the world of cryptids, those elusive creatures said to roam our forests, lakes, and skies just beyond the reach of science. Today we're diving into the myths, the legends, and the real-life encounters with beings like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, and the terrifying Wendigo. But that's not all. We'll also explore a creature that's more unheard of, one that lurks beneath the surface of Lake Superior. A creature so mysterious, it might just be the Great Lakes' best-kept secret, the Mishigama Serpent. Are these creatures relics of the forgotten past, figments of our collective fears, or something even more? Let's pull back the curtain, let's shed some light on these mysterious monsters, and let's find out. Let's start with the basics. Cryptozoology, what is it? Where does the term come from? Well, the term comes from the Greek words kryptos, meaning hidden, and zoology, meaning the study of animals. Unlike traditional zoology, cryptozoology focuses on animals whose existence is unproven by mainstream science. These creatures, often called cryptids, blur the lines between myth and reality. Think Bigfoot, the Yeti, or even the Chupacabra. What makes cryptozoology fascinating is its blend of folklore, eyewitness accounts, and the hope that some of these creatures might actually exist. Skeptics argue that cryptozoology is more pseudoscience than legitimate science, but let's be real. Isn't part of the fun imagining what could be out there, just beyond the reach of human understanding? I do think that it's a little bit more on the pseudoscience end of it, though, so I tend to agree with most of that. Cryptids are a global phenomenon, with creatures haunting every corner of the earth. Now, we shall take a dive into the darkness, and let's pull the details of some of the most famous cryptids out of the shadows. So first off, we have the legendary Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch. This ape-like creature has been spotted in the dense forests of North America for centuries. Reports describe it as a towering figure, often over 8 feet tall, covered in thick hair, and possessing a distinct, powerful odor. Native American tribes have their own tales of Bigfoot, often portraying it as a guardian of the forest. Bigfoot is one of the most enduring and iconic cryptids in the world. Probably, I would say, it might be the most known cryptid in the world. So, where does the term Sasquatch come from? Where does Bigfoot originate? The term Sasquatch is derived from the Halco-Melum word Sasquetz, or Saskets, S-A-S-Q'-E-T-S, meaning wild man or hairy man. Tribes such as the coastal Salish of British Columbia and the Yakama of Washington have stories of large hairy beings that inhabit remote regions and possess spiritual or supernatural qualities. There are ones such as the Wendigo, while not exactly identical to the Bigfoot. Some Algonquin and Cree legends describe a humanoid creature with connections to wilderness and isolation. We will talk about the Wendigo quite a bit later on in this tale. There are also the Stayaha, Stick Indians, in the lore of the Salish and other Northwest tribes. Stick Indians are nocturnal, hairy beings with the ability to paralyze humans with their cries. Indigenous accounts often portray Bigfoot as a protector of nature, a being to be respected and feared, but not just a mere animal. Early European settlers brought their own myths of wild men living in the forest. These legends, rooted in European folklore, often merged with indigenous stories, creating a hybrid mythos. Mythos? Mythos? I think it's mythos. Or, who the hell knows? It might be mythos? Mythos? Yeah, whatever. Something like that. In the 19th century, there were multiple sightings. In the mid-1800s, newspapers began reporting on wild men seen in remote forests, described as large, hairy humanoids. These accounts often lacked a consistency, but hinted at the beginning of Bigfoot's integration into Western storytelling. Miners and prospectors in the Pacific Northwest reported strange encounters with large, bipedal creatures in the mountains. It might be bipedal, it doesn't matter. Who the fuck cares? You know what I'm talking about. You walk on 2 feet, you're a fucking bipedal person. So fuck off. You know what I'm saying. Alright, so bipedals have been spotted all over the world, a lot of them in the Pacific Northwest in particular. It's the ideal environment. There we go, that's the fucking word I'm talking about. The ideal environment for Bigfoot to thrive in. Everyone who researches Bigfoot says that is where Bigfoot would be if Bigfoot is legitimate. The name Bigfoot, good old fucking Bigfoot. The name Bigfoot became widely known in 1958 after a journalist, Andrew Genzoli, Andrew Genzoli. Give me a fucking panini, motherfucker. And yeah, cut me up some fucking pecorino and shit. Something like that. I don't know. Some Italian nonsense. Published a story in the Humboldt Times about giant footprints found near Bluff Creek, California. These tracks were later associated with logging equipment operator Jerry Crew. Good old fucking Jerry Crew. Chilled, smoking some dope, hanging out, and just fucking living his life. It's Jerry Crew, who cast the footprints and popularized the term. So popularized the term Bigfoot. This was the dude who originally found these giant footprints, though, and talked to Andrew Genzoli about the footprints. Andrew Genzoli wrote the article based on Jerry Crew's original story. And that was in the late 1950s, coming into the 60s. In the 60s, one of the most famous pieces of alleged Bigfoot evidence was filmed by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin in Bluff Creek, California. The short footage shows a creature walking upright, often referred to as Patty. So a female Bigfoot is what you see in this video. If you've ever looked up Bigfoot in any fucking way, you have seen this. You've seen at least the still from this footage. It's this Bigfoot-type creature looking over its shoulder back at the camera, and they're out in like a little field type of thing. It was shot with a 16mm film. I don't know the exact camera thing, but it was a 16mm film of some sort. Seems like a lot of cryptid encounters that are caught on camera are filmed on 16mm film, which is, I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if that's just like, it's harder to get like a digital footprint or, actually tell if someone has messed with the footage or something. Because I feel like every fucking one I hear about that, it's like, there's actual footage. It's like, it was shot on a 16mm film. It's like, yeah, sure, dude. Sure it was. I'm sure. Many people think that this was a person in a costume. Skeptics argue that the figure was a person in a costume, while believers cite the creature's method of walking and musculature as evidence of its authenticity. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, maybe people are really gullible. And, Patterson and Gimlin were looking to make a couple of bucks because they would sell this footage to news outlets and, a bunch of different places like that. They probably made a little bit of money on it just because they had this one shot in it where it's like dead set, look fucking at this Bigfoot bitch. Yeah, it's very interesting, very peculiar. Don't know if it's something I would believe in. It's hard to say that there's such a giant creature out there that has never been discovered, that a body's never been discovered, that bones have never been discovered. It's a large creature, and even if it lived in the most remote areas, people stumble upon it. There are hunters, there are indigenous peoples, there are animals who carry bones around, there are fucking birds and fucking so many things. There are so many different creatures out there that would move this body, would move the bones, that would, eat it, that would help help distribute the evidence of this creature throughout the area, and someone would stumble upon it. Someone would stumble upon something that was more official and legitimate than some crappy fucking footage and, a footprint that could have easily been made by a goddamn piece of, wood. So, it's hard to say. Researchers have collected alleged Bigfoot evidence, including footprints, often measuring 16 to 36 inches long. Hair samples, which are frequently tested, though most are identified as grizzly bear, polar bear, or human hair, but have included raccoon, horse, and giraffe hairs as well. Audio recordings. Sounds attributed to Bigfoot include whoops, howls, and wood knocking, often happening in groups of 3. Apparently, they're really into the groups of 3, so you'll hear a fucking 1, 2, 3, knock, knock, knock type of thing going on. Oftentimes, Bigfoot searchers, people who are looking for Bigfoot, will actually take sticks or logs or a bat even, and just, fucking 1, 2, 3 against the tree and see if they hear anything back. A lot of the time they do hear stuff back, but oftentimes it's just like shit in their own imagination. Sometimes it's other creatures. Sometimes it's fucking things falling from the trees. I was reading a book and one of them was like, a lot of the times you'll hear the 3 knocks and it's fucking acorns falling from a tree. So, yeah, do they really hear it? I don't think there's anything too legit that has to do with the knocking. The whoops and the howls. There are so many different creatures out there that make strange, odd, creepy noises that even if you are sure the noises of almost every creature out there, there is going to be one that will make it a noise that is either higher pitched or extends longer than natural or is lower pitched than normal, something. There's always that outlier that really doesn't fit in with the group, that's going to sound weird or be weird or look weird or something. So I don't know. They're probably hearing other animals or, wind blowing through the fucking trees or something that sounds like a whistle or a howl or something. So I can't picture the audio really being a legitimate source of proof that Bigfoot, Sasquatch exists. So there are theories, though. There are theories like the Gigantopithecus theory. Some scientists hypothesize. I don't know what the fuck I was trying to say. Some scientists hypothesize that Bigfoot could be a descendant of Gigantopithecus, a massive ape that lived in Asia and might have crossed into North America via the land bridge, the Bering Land Bridge. The Bering Strait is a narrow, shallow waterway that separates Russia from Alaska. It's about 53 miles wide at its narrowest point and 130 feet deep on average. And the land bridge theory states that sometime during the previous ice age, the Bering Strait iced over and spanned between Asia and North America thousands of years ago. The theory of a land bridge has fueled the imagination of explorers and scientists for centuries. It's pretty well proven that this happened because there are remains of people who came over 12,000, 14,000 years ago, and a lot of them are found in the Northwest over there. There are a lot of indigenous people, a lot of indigenous Alaskan people who are found who have lineage back to these people who came over the land bridge into the Americas from Russia or from Eastern Asia there. So many dismiss Bigfoot as a cultural phenomenon fueled by hoaxes, misidentifications such as bears, and wishful thinking because, even though it'd be creepy as fuck, people want there to be a monster. They want them to be like, there's some fucking thing that I saw, and there's something that I was a part of that not everyone is a part of, and I have this thing that I can fucking really, I don't know, I can latch onto and be like, this crazy shit happened to me one day, and it was real. It was real too, like fucking crazy real. Bigfoot has become a staple of documentaries, books, and movies, such as The Legend of Boggy Creek in 1972, Harry and the Hendersons in 1987, Bigfoot, The Lost Coast Tapes in 2012, and Valley of the Sasquatch in 2015, among so many others. So many others. Also, hilarious. Out of these four, I looked at probably a good 20 others. Every single movie I looked at had less than 5 stars on IMDb. So, most of them are not too good. Most of them are not very entertaining. Most of them are probably pretty fucking stupid. I'm not going to lie. But there are a couple that were over 6 stars, a couple of 6.1s, 6.2s. One of those included the Sasquatch fucking Bigfoot like animated cartoon by, I don't know if it's by Pixar or who the fuck it's by, but it was some Bigfoot animated movie that came out in the last probably 10 years. But other than that, there's not too many of them that have good ratings on IMDb. But go watch them. Go choose for yourself. Go see what you think about these movies and documentaries. There are a lot of books. I'm listening to one recently. I was listening to one this week called The United States of Cryptids, and it was actually pretty entertaining. It really touches on different aspects of all these creatures and the places they come from, the people who encountered them, and what these cities are doing to really honor these creatures and kind of embrace their cryptid side. A lot of them have different events and activities throughout the year. A lot of them have festivals at some point throughout the year that celebrate these creatures. And I think it's a good source of revenue for a lot of these places. Like, in Point Pleasant, we'll talk about Mothman coming up, and they've made a whole fucking, their whole city pretty much runs off of fucking Mothman. Dead cent middle of the town. They have a statue. They do a festival. They fucking boom, boom, boom. It's the most populous cryptid festival in the United States, and that's just crazy. It's crazy what people can do. And it's, if you're looking for a weird kind of creepy book on this subject, I would say The United States of Cryptid was a pretty solid one. I listened to a couple. There's a few out there that were just the stupidest shit in the world. Another one that was kind of interesting but kind of stupid, like it was like Cryptids, How We Know They're Real or something like that. And this dude takes cryptids, he breaks them down to categories, and he scores each category, and each cryptid gets, a score of 1 to 100 on basis of how real they are. And, most of them don't eclipse 50 at the very most. I think there's 1 or 2 that were upwards of 75 plus, but most of them are like 10, 1, 20. Like, chances are they are no fucking way they're real. Groups like the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization conduct field investigations and host conferences every year. Towns like Willow Creek, California, and Forks, Washington embrace Bigfoot as part of their identity, hosting festivals and creating museums. That's another part. A lot of museums out there, too, whether it's based on a single cryptid or whether it's based on, a bunch of cryptids and cryptozoology as a whole. There is a lot of different museums out there as well. So as I mentioned, Willow Creek holds an event. It hosts an event called Bigfoot Days each year. The Bigfoot Days featured a Disco Days Bigfoot Parade, a Bigfoot Museum, and even a sprinkler zone for kids in 2024. Plus, they have live music, which is probably not the best by any means. I did not recognize a single one of the names. Let's see, we've got Noble Tobel, the California Poppies. Oh, and how about the Eureka Music School? All of those really fucking, they're jamming out the hits these days. Probably heard the new hit single from Eureka Music School, right? Yeah, honestly, it's a shame if you haven't heard about them, so that's your bad. Go and check out Willow Creek Bigfoot Days if you're out in California during July, I believe it was. It was in the middle of July. I don't think they released a date yet for this year, but go and check it out if you're out there, if you're in California, if you're fucking interested in cryptids or just want to see some wacky people. go and check out fucking Bigfoot Days. You'll have a great time, I'm sure. They have a trail outside of town. It's a couple 100 miles. That's fucking Bigfoot trail. They have Bigfoot this, Bigfoot that. It seems like Willow Creek's really embraced Bigfoot as their fucking calling card. So good for them. Good for them, and I hope it does good for them just as well as it does in some other areas. So some notable sightings and encounters. In 1924, Albert Ostman, a Canadian prospector, claimed he was abducted by a... This guy fucking killed me. A Canadian prospector claimed he was abducted by a family of Bigfoots and held for 6 days before escaping. So they said he said that he was sleeping. The Bigfoots came and they snatched him up, carrying him away in his own sleeping bag, and then took him to a random fucking place that he'd never seen before. And he was kept there as their pet for 6 days. And his belief was that they were going to have him marry their youngest daughter, Bigfoot, in some sort of weird fucking ceremony to do. I have absolutely no clue what the result that he was thinking or that these Bigfoots would be expecting would be, but he distracted them, or they became distracted, and he was able to run away and escape after 6 days of captivity. That was 1924. Believability is probably like 1 out of 10. This guy sounds like he was maybe more of like a fucking drunken asshole who got way too smashed and blacked out and came to and didn't know where the fuck he was at and had to make up a story to his wife why he was gone for 6 fucking days. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know. It sounds like he's a wacky dude though. But it was one of the most famous, one of the first most famous sightings of Bigfoot. It was in the newspaper about this guy. It was really something that helped expedite. There we go. I was going to say express. I was going to say exaggerate. No, expedite the Bigfoot name into mainstream kind of nature. There was the Skookum cast, which is a big deal. A lot of people, if you know anything about Bigfoot and cryptids and folklore and all that shit, you probably know about the Skookum cast in 2000, a large impression found in Washington state, which was claimed to be evidence of a reclining Bigfoot, though skeptics argued it could be an elk. Probably an elk. It looks like a body that laid down. There's 2 elbow marks, so people are often saying that's like a Bigfoot that was laying backwards, kind of like back on its elbows kind of thing. But in reality, if you've ever seen an elk lay down, they do this thing where they tuck their front legs in and they lay on their front legs pretty much. They put their hooves in the ground. And I think it would look very similar. If you look at this cast, you can't fucking tell what it is. I mean, it's a huge mark that was on the ground, 2 deep impressions. These 2 deep impressions that are either where the hooves were on the elk or where, quote unquote, the elbows were on the Bigfoot. It's, it's hard to say. I really think it's some sort of big animal. I think that 99.999% of evidence that is associated with Bigfoot can be explained away very simply with other wildlife and things that happen in nature. Not everything can, I would say, but the majority. And then next, in 1994, a few years before the Skookum cast, a video from the Blue Ridge Mountains in Washington captured what appears to be a Bigfoot walking through the forest. This is often referred to as the Freeman footage. It is Paul Freeman is the one who shot it, and it apparently shows a Bigfoot walking away in the distance. And actually, if you want to believe other people, it at least shows 2 in there, and sometimes people speculate that there's even 3 Bigfoots. If you actually enhance the footage and look in the background in the distance, there are actually more back there as well, along with the one that kind of runs away as he pulls up his camera. I don't know. It's as simple to believe to me as any of the other ones with some stupid asshole dressing in a Bigfoot costume. Which, probably more likely than some gigantic creature living out there that no one can find any true evidence of. So, I don't know. Am I completely skeptical of cryptids and of cryptozoology? No. There is some believable things. There are some things that could definitely be, true and could be possible. But there are some that are just so out there, so ridiculous, so researched into that at this point, if no actual hard evidence has shown up, it's not true. It's not going to show up. It's not going to happen. There isn't going to be fucking a 10-foot skeleton of some goddamn humanoid bipedal creature that's going to show up randomly in the woods of fucking Oregon or Washington. It's just not going to happen. Sorry to break it to you fucking people, but I'd love to believe that there's some other creatures out there like that we don't know about. But on land, I don't think on land is where those creatures are going to be found. I think the ocean is by far the place to look for cryptid, creepy, fucking wild creatures, especially since the ocean is very, very vastly unexplored. It's incredibly unexplored, and there are so many creatures, so many different types of animals out there that we still don't fucking know about. We find new shit all the time. Even nowadays with so much technology, new animals, new species, new things are being found all the time. Nowadays, in modern investigations, things like trail cameras and DNA analysis are used. Trail cameras are deployed in remote areas to capture wildlife and potential Bigfoot sightings, while DNA analysis is used to test hair, scat, and other samples. Organizations such as the BFRO, one we already talked about, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, founded in 1995. This organization collects and analyzes sightings from around the world. And the North American Wood Ape Conservancy focuses on studying and conserving Bigfoot habitats. And there's other organizations also that are dedicated strictly to goddamn spider coming down right in front of my fucking computer. Like, you know how they just string down fucking on their web, coming right down in front of me. Great. Yeah, hell yeah. I don't mind spiders though. They're cool creatures and they keep the bugs out. So, what am I saying? There are other organizations though that strictly focus on killing Bigfoot also instead of conserving him. So it's funny that there's kind of both sides there. There's people strictly like all they want to do is find Bigfoot and kill this motherfucker, or kill these motherfuckers if there are multiple Bigfoots out there. So today, Bigfoot remains an enduring mystery, with sightings reported annually from across North America. Whether a real creature, a cultural phenomenon, or a psychological projection, Bigfoot continues to captivate imaginations and fuel debates among believers and skeptics alike. And that's Bigfoot for you. You know, he's a fucking big-ass ape-type creature that walks on 2 feet and lurks in the Pacific Northwest. So if you're looking for him, get up to fucking Oregon, go to northern fucking Washington, get up into Canada between Washington and Alaska. I think it's British Columbia? Yes, British Columbia over there. Go and fucking look. Go into the forest. Apparently nighttime is the best time to go. Creepy as shit, but I'm sure you'll find something that will creep you out, that will gather your interest, that will keep your attention, that might kill you. Who knows? You never know. You might find a bear in the middle of the night that rips your intestines out and fucking eats you alive. Probably unlikely, but you never know. And next going on this fucking cryptid journey, we have the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, good old Nessie, swimming into the spotlight. Allegedly dwelling in the murky depths of Scotland's Loch Ness, Nessie's first recorded sighting dates back to the 6th century, actually, way the fuck back. While skeptics dismiss it as a case of misidentification or hoaxes, many still believe that something, or someone, stirs beneath those waters. Nessie has been the subject of legend, scientific inquiry, and popular fascination for centuries. So what the fuck is Loch Ness? What is a loch? Bitch-ass loch. Who knows what a loch is? It's a lake, actually. It's the same thing we call a lake over here as a loch over in Scotland and England and all the fucking countries over there, the English countries, the United Kingdom type countries, all in that fucking area. The UK countries, they have lochs instead of lakes. Loch Ness is situated in the Scottish Highlands near the city of Inverness. And I would love to go to Inverness. One, because Scotland looks like it's fucking beautiful. And two, to see, if I can find Nessie. Of course, that's what else are you going to do if you go to Inverness and near Loch Ness. Also, though, there is a show that my girlfriend and I watch called Outlander, and a lot of it is based out of Inverness. At least the first couple of seasons, they were out in Inverness and in the countryside and living off the land and shit like that. It's a period piece where time travel is part of it. If you've never heard of it, it's based on a series of books, and it's actually pretty interesting. It's a love tale, so if you're not into cheesy, mushy, stupid shit like that, I get it. It's actually a lot of historically accurate tales that are a part of it too, that are kind of wound throughout it, and that's really what keeps my interest more than the love side of it. But it's been interesting enough. I think season 7 just finished, so if you want something to watch for a little bit, go and check that out. Short seasons, usually between 8 and 12 episodes or something, but pretty good show. Starts slow but gets into it and gets interesting. So what are the features of Loch Ness? What kind of fucking lake, what kind of loch would hold a gigantic creature dwelling underneath the waters? The features of Loch Ness: it is approximately 23 miles long, over 750 feet deep, making it the second deepest loch in Scotland, with Loch Morar being the deepest at 1,017 feet or 310 meters. Loch Ness contains more fresh water than all the lakes in England and Wales combined. Good old England and Wales got nothing on Loch Ness. So much water in Loch Ness. One of the large lakes that we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about another one later on. As I mentioned, there's the Mishigama Serpent that is dwelling in Lake Superior, so we will talk about that one also. Loch Ness's vast size, dark waters, and steep underwater cliffs make it an ideal setting for myths and hidden creatures. So where did the origins of the Loch Ness where did it originate? Where did Loch Ness come from? Where did this Scottish myth develop? Where did this folklore develop? So originally, Scottish folklore is filled with tales of kelpies, shape-shifting water spirits that often appear as horses, but were said to drown humans. These myths may have influenced later interpretations of Nessie. These kelpies could turn into like a woman almost. They would lure people off the land into the water and drown these humans that came into the water after these kelpie water horses lured them into it. So don't know where that originated, but kelpies sound fucking terrifying. Don't go in the water if there are kelpies in there. If anyone tells you there's a fucking kelpie in the water, don't go in there. Stay the fuck out. Get away from the kelpies. Okay? Got it? Cool. And then the beast of the River Ness in the 6th century, kind of like the earliest original Nessie kind of sighting tale type of thing. One of the earliest written accounts of a creature in the area comes from the life of Saint Columba, an Irish monk. Around 565 AD, St. Columba reportedly encountered a water beast in the River Ness, which attacked a swimmer. Columba invoked God to drive the creature away, and it retreated. So he used the Spirit of God, the power of Jesus. I guess not Jesus, the power of God. Reached his hand down and drove this little fucking bitch-ass creature out of the River Ness. This account, recorded by the monk Adamnan, there we go. This account, recorded by the monk Adamnan, is often cited as an early reference to Nessie. Now, coming forward from the 6th century into the 20th century, there was a lot more sightings and the birth of the legend that is the Loch Ness. The modern legend of the Loch Ness Monster began in earnest in the 20th century, particularly in the 1930s, as several high-profile sightings brought global attention to the Loch Ness. Beginning with the McKay sighting in April of 1933, hotel manager Aldi McKay reported seeing a whale-like creature in the loch, describing it as large, dark, and undulating through the water. Her account was published in the Inverness Courier and sparked widespread curiosity. Later that year, in July of 1933, the Spicer sighting. George Spicer and his wife claimed they saw a long-necked creature crossing the road into the loch, near the loch, into the loch. They described it as having a large body and undulating movements, and undulating is like that, means having a smooth rising and falling form or outline. So, That's going to be our word of the day. Undulating, word of the day. Having a smoothly rising and falling form or outline. The undulating of the Loch Ness into the water. The undulating of the Loch Ness in. The undulating of Nessie in the water of Loch Ness. There we go. They described the creature as having a large body and undulating movements, reminiscent of a prehistoric animal. And continuing in 1933 in September now, Terrence McGrath was a ship repairman that came over to Loch Ness to work on a boat that was recently put in. And he was quoted as saying, "I sent 2 divers to investigate the denizen of the loch, and they found it to be the wreckage of a German blimp, the stern of which appears above the surface at low tide." So apparently this dude went over, he was there to do some repairs on boats, or to check on boats that were recently delivered, that were new boats, and get them operational so they could go out into the water. And he decided to send divers out to investigate the loch to see if they could find Nessie here. And they found the wreckage of a German blimp, which appeared at low tide. When low tide was there, the surface, the top of the blimp would actually come out of the water. And then when it was high tide, it would, be back under the water and you could not see it anymore. So that, I mean, if that's true, that could definitely be a possibility that some people saw. I don't know how they would have seen it moving unless the current or the water, if there was waves maybe kind of making it move back and forth or sway a little bit, something of that nature. But that sounds like a legitimate source of a lot of people's sightings. Could have been something as simple as a fucking blimp that was wrecked into the water years before. So maybe it's that, maybe who knows. And finally, the next year in 1934, one of the most famous and probably the most famous photo associated with Nessie, the surgeon's photograph, was taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson. It depicts a long neck and head emerging from the water. If you look up the Loch Ness Monster, it's probably the first one you'll see. It's this black and white photo. It looks like an image out in the water with the very back hump of the creature coming out, and then its long head or its long neck and small head kind of peeking out above that. But 6 decades later, in 1994, it was revealed to be a hoax involving a toy submarine and a fake neck. But the image remains iconic. So this guy actually had, I believe it was his son, he had his son create this rubber neck and head that he stuck then onto a toy submarine and put the submarine and, this head neck that was created for it into the loch, and he shot pictures of this creature out in the loch, quote unquote creature out in the loch. And, it gained a lot of traction. It's an incredibly famous image and is definitely the most iconic image of Nessie as it is. Though it was, a hoax. It was fake as fuck, as a lot of the official photos of cryptids are. Early expeditions in the 1930s to 1950s, initial searches for Nessie relied on rudimentary equipment like binoculars and cameras. Local enthusiasts and journalists played key roles in documenting alleged sightings. Mainly, it involved either walking around the loch during the morning or evening times, or taking a boat on the water while being vigilant and trying to spot anything that was remotely monstrous. So it could be, a stick floating in the fucking distance. It could be waves coming together. A lot of the things I saw were the wake from 2 boats came together and, the size of the wake was increased and it looked like the spine of a creature coming out of the water and then it just disappeared. And it's like, yes, that's, water. Water does that. Gravity will cause the wake to fall back into, it loses momentum, it stops, the water will not continue moving, it won't just stay up in the air because of, fucking gravity. So dumb people, idiot people saying stupid shit all the time. It just blows my mind. How many people are willing to believe some really, really dumb theories behind some of these creatures? Some of the theories are great, awesome. They sound very legit, very possible, very plausible. Many of them, though, very dumb, very stupid, very lack of brain-celled, created type of theories. So, I don't know. I don't like a lot of them. A lot of them are very stupid. As the searches went on into the 60s and 70s, sonar was involved. Sonar technology brought new possibilities for exploring the depths of Loch Ness. In 1968, the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau conducted extensive sonar sweeps and detected unexplained objects moving in the water, though they were often kind of put off as groups of fish or large boulders, things of that nature that may be misshapen or may be moving in a way that is hard to identify, especially back in the day when technology was not as great. Sonar could show you, hey, there's a big shape right here, but it could be something as simple as a log that sunk, like I said, a boulder, a group of fish. It could be a lot of different things that were harder to detect because the technology was not as great back then. So, moving forward a few years, in 1972, an underwater photograph taken during a sonar study appeared to show a flipper-like appendage, sparking renewed excitement. And it's the same thing. It could be a piece of some sort of foliage. It could be, some seaweed, kelp, it could be some mossy type of something. It could be a rock that was covered in some sort of muddy material that just looks, it's flipper shaped. Whatever. It's, it could be a piece of a tree that was, torn off. It could be some bark that was who knows? A flipper-like appendage could be anything. It's the shape. It's like, it reminds me of The Curse of Oak Island. They were like, look at this shape in this fucking scan we did. There has to be a body down there. It's like, no, dude, there's not a fucking body down there, you stupid asshole. It's not a fucking body. It's not a fucking pit full of treasure. You're pulling wood and fucking mud out of the ground. Good for you for making a show out of it and making millions of dollars and all that shit. But, dude, you're so dumb. So dumb. If you actually think the treasure's on that fucking island, after so many people have researched, after so many people have dug, after you've done 10 plus years of fucking trying to find shit on that island, and with the technology you have nowadays, you are stupid. Sorry to tell you, fucking Rick and whatever the guy's name is, stupid. I don't care if you're from Michigan. I don't care if you fucking still live out here. I know you live up in fucking the Grand Traverse area. You have a winery in the Leelanau Peninsula. Stupid assholes. Good for you for making your money. Good for you for fucking being able to, fuck around and make $1 million. The theories, the point, the subject behind your show is so stupid. It's just the stupidest. Would I love for them to randomly fucking one day, they're not going to unless they want to stop the show, or if they ever do find something, they're not going to show you unless they want to stop the show. I would love for them to pull a fucking treasure chest out of the ground, though, and it just, be full of fucking coins and jewels and bars of gold and whatever the hell else. That'd be incredible. That would make the fucking show. I'd hope that episode would have the highest viewer rating, ever. But probably not the case, So sonar was used in the 60s and 70s, and then going into the 80s. In 87, Operation Deep Scan was commenced. This was one of the largest sonar studies of Loch Ness, involving 24 boats equipped with advanced sonar. The operations detected large, unexplained moving objects in the loch, as I said before, but researchers concluded that these could have been schools of fish or other natural phenomena. And then moving forward with, broadening technology coming, in 2018 and 2019, DNA studies were done. In the recent years, scientists have used environmental DNA, or eDNA, to study the biodiversity of Loch Ness. No evidence of large animals such as plesiosaurs or other marine reptiles were found. However, researchers discovered abundant eel DNA, leading to speculations that large, very large eels might explain some of the sightings. So, theories. What could Nessie be? Theories behind the monster. Plesiosaur survival. Some enthusiasts believe Nessie could be a surviving plesiosaur, a marine reptile thought to have gone extinct 66 million years ago. And while it's not impossible, it is incredibly billions and billions and billions and billions of zeros, 0.0 billion 1 percent that it's possible. It's such a low percent. It's like 1 in 650 million billion. 1 in 650 trillion fucking possibility. It's not really possible, but it could be. Very, very low, very unlikely could be. Counterpoint, though, plesiosaurs were air-breathing reptiles, and a viable population in Loch Ness would likely surface frequently, dolphins, whales, things of that nature. Mammals that live in the sea, they have to breathe air still. They have to come up. They have to get air from the surface. So these creatures would have to get air from the surface. They would often surface as frequently as possible, making them easier to detect, and that isn't the case, so probably not the plesiosaur. Giant eels. Large eels are a plausible explanation for many of the sightings, especially reports of undulating movements in the water. Good old undulating movements in the water. Good old fucking smooth up and down movements floating in the water. And then some sort of unknown species. Some suggest Nessie could be an undiscovered species of aquatic creature adapted to the loch's unique environment. In reality, the chances of an unfounded species appearing in a lake-type area are incredibly slim, especially an area like Loch Ness that's been studied and sonared, and, they do everything they can to really try and figure out what is in the lake, that loch. I can't picture it. Like I said, in the ocean, sure. There are places in the ocean people have never been. There are depths we can never reach. We have never reached. There's the Mariana Trench, and that thing is fucking 36,000 feet below sea level. So that thing is so deep that I didn't look this up, but I don't think people have ever been to the bottom of it. I don't think any type of a vehicle, remote, whatever, any sort of camera system, any sort of anything has ever been down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, because it is incredibly deep. The pressure of that water would destroy pretty much everything. People for sure, equipment probably, vehicles, most likely. To get something down there even would be such an incredible struggle, and there has to be some sort of creatures that live down there. There is depths, there's darkness, there's creatures that, are completely see-through, that live in the fucking pitch black, 3,000 feet below the fucking surface of the ocean. It's incredible what's out there, and there is so much that's been unexplored that there has to be some sort of creepy monster type creature out there that we just don't know about yet, that someone maybe has seen at some point somehow, that somehow, came up out of the trenches, that came out of the darkness for a split second, that someone saw, that they couldn't explain. They couldn't explain what it was, and I believe that. Someone in the middle of the fucking ocean saw something like a fucking giant kraken or some shit. Who knows? I could believe it. I could believe things in the ocean more than I can believe things on land. And I fucking hate the ocean. I hate open water. Open water scares the fucking piss out of me. It's my worst fear in the world. Irrational fear would be a bridge that I am driving over falling into the water. But other than that, like plane crashing into the water, getting stranded on a boat that's sinking in the water, anything in open water where I can't see the fucking land, no fucking way. I mean, I've flown to Europe before, and thankfully at the time I didn't really think about it as much, but open water is goddamn nightmarish for me. In reality, so the lake-type area, very slim, of unfounded species appearing in the lake. Other explanations, hoaxes. Over the year, many sightings and photographs have been revealed as deliberate fabrications or hoaxes, such as the surgeon's photograph is a hoax, and many others have been, evidently found to be hoaxes in the end. Misidentifications, floating logs, boat wakes, and large fish are often mistaken for the monster. And optical illusions. The dark, peaty waters of Loch Ness, combined with shifting light and weather conditions, can create visual distortions. So someone might just be, tripping on acid on their back porch, and they see something out in the distance that the light reflects off the water weird, and they're like, "Oh, what was that, man? Yeah, fucking that Nessie? Oh shit, dog. I shouldn't have done that second hit. Oh wow, man." I'm seeing the tracers are crazy today. There has to be some explanation for pretty much everything that people have seen. And the cultural impact. So what does Nessie mean today? What is happening with Nessie today? Loch Ness attracts hundreds of thousands of tourists each year, a lot of them drawn by the legend of Nessie. The monster has also been featured in countless books, documentaries, and films as maybe it's very high up there. It's probably the second well-known cryptid behind Bigfoot, but has been featured in books, films, and documentaries, including The Water Horse in 2007 and The Incident at Loch Ness in 2004. And Nessie has inspired broader interest in cryptozoology and has fueled debates about the existence of undiscovered species in remote locations. So, could Nessie be around? It's possible, but a lot of people also say, like, hey, Nessie comes into the loch and actually tunnels. There's a tunnel in the loch that goes back out to the ocean, so it lives its time in the ocean and then spends some time in the loch. And it's, no. That's not the case. The loch has been sonared. The loch has been detailed immensely, has been studied immensely. There are no fucking caves that come out of the loch into the ocean or anything of that nature. So it's kind of a dumb one. I understand maybe back in the day why people might think something like that, but not the case. So while scientific investigations have yet to prove definite evidence of Nessie's existence, the legend remains a powerful symbol of mystery and wonder. Whether a misidentified creature, a deliberate hoax, or a genuine unknown species, the Loch Ness Monster continues to captivate imaginations worldwide. And that's it for Nessie, so get the fuck out of Loch Ness. Let's get the fuck back to the Americas. Let's come back to the United States of America, and we're going to West Virginia. West Virginia, there is Mothman, the eerie winged creature that terrorized Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The eerie winged creature that terrorized Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 1960s. And, still is very popular nowadays, but the main story lies in the late 1960s. All right, so yeah, Mothman, known for its glowing red eyes and massive wingspan. Known for its glowing red eyes and massive wingspan, Mothman is often linked to impending disasters like the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967. A harbinger of doom, or just a bird that's been mistaken for a monster? We'll let you decide. So a little detailed history of Mothman. Mothman is one of the most iconic and enigmatic, I don't know what the fuck was coming out of my mouth at first, but enigmatic cryptids. One of the most iconic and enigmatic cryptids in American folklore. This winged humanoid creature has captured the imagination of people worldwide, blending elements of urban legend, supernatural phenomena, and conspiracy theories. Associated with strange sightings and ominous events, Mothman's story is deeply rooted in the history of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It's right on the border of Ohio and West Virginia. It's right across from Gallipolis. Let's see how it's pronounced. Just a second. So it's Gallipolis, Ohio, right across from the Point Pleasant, West Virginia, across the river there. Might be the Ohio River, probably. That would make a lot of sense. But right across the river there, Mothman is one of the most iconic and enigmatic creatures. I already said this. This winged humanoid is captured. Am I talking the same thing I just said? Yes, same exact thing I was just saying. Okay. The legend of Mothman began in November of 1966 with a series of strange encounters in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. First, and one of the least talked about incidents, actually. It's hard to find reports of this incident, but 5 gravediggers in Clendenin, Clendenin, lots of N's, Clendenin, West Virginia, recalled seeing a large winged figure flying over their heads. The creature appeared humanoid and moved silently, sparking initial intrigue. 3 nights later, on the 15th of November 1966, 2 young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette, encountered a terrifying figure near the abandoned West Virginia Ordnance Works known as the TNT area. They described the creature as being over 6 feet tall, with a 10 to 15 foot wingspan, eyes that were large and glowing red, and it followed their car at speeds exceeding 100 miles an hour, but emitted zero sound. Absolutely no sound, silently flying at over 100 miles an hour. This was the first reported sighting of the infamous Mothman. The myth and sightings would spread like wildfire. The next day, a contractor named Newell Partridge reported seeing red lights near his barn and experiencing strange television interference. Additionally, that evening, Additionally, that evening, his dog ran into the darkness. Additionally, that evening, his dog ran into the darkness and would never be seen again, fueling speculation about Mothman's connection to animal disappearances. These sightings quickly spread through local newspapers, drawing widespread attention and coining the name Mothman, inspired by Batman, the TV series that had aired earlier that year. And yeah, Batman was in the January, I believe. It was very early. January or February of 1966 is when Batman first aired on TV. And doing research for this episode here, was looking at Mothman articles on newspapers.com. Also, if you're ever looking for a place to find some old articles and shit, I think they're owned by Ancestry or vice versa, but newspapers.com, I've used it for years now. It's a great place to find old articles and, official articles that are not as... not exaggerated, I guess exaggerated, but find some old articles that are a little bit more detailed and more accurate than some of the internet blogs and shit that you see out there nowadays. A lot of them do pull from these old articles, but having an exact article of the person who wrote it, the exact date, time, blah, 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 is really nice to have. And it's, it feels more factual than reading some random person's blog off the internet. So it's a great place to delve into some different topics, some official topics, some actual facts. Not that everything written in a newspaper is factual, but I feel like it has a better chance of being accurate and factual than someone's blog that was put up a couple of years ago that they decided to make with WordPress. So, but reading during this episode, doing different articles, I found an article about some people complaining that they were getting constant phone calls. Their last name was Batman, and they would get constant phone calls, prank phone calls of people being like, the town's in trouble. Is the commissioner there? Or is Robin there? Or save us, Batman, things of that nature. And these people were pissed that they were getting so many fake phone calls because of this stupid TV show. And they would refuse to watch the TV show because of all the prank phone calls they got, which I thought was fucking hilarious. But, so the ordnance, the West Virginia Ordnance Works was a munitions plant during World War II, later abandoned and overgrown. The area's network of concrete igloos used for storing explosives, and its isolation created an eerie atmosphere perfect for spawning legends. After the initial sighting in November of 1966, the next year would be flooded with over 100 reports of Mothman sightings. Local authorities in the following month, over 100 sightings of Mothman were reported to local authorities in the months following the Scarberry Millet encounter. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Witnesses described a sense of dread accompanying the creature, strange noises or disruptions in electronics, and the creature flying at incredible speeds and exhibiting unusual intelligence. Like it knew what you were going to do before you did it type of thing. You turned right, it already fucking turned right. You're going to make a left, you're going to slam on your brakes, it already fucking stopped behind you. It knows what you're going to do. Don't try to trick the fucking Mothman, you're not going to win. So, that led up to the Silver Bridge collapse on December 15th, 1967, which was a tragedy in Point Pleasant, or right between Point Pleasant and Gallipolis, Ohio. The Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed during rush hour traffic, killing 46 people. Many locals linked the disaster to Mothman, believing the creature was either an omen or a harbinger of doom. Author John Keel, who investigated the sightings, published the Mothman Prophecies in 1975. Keel suggested Mothman was a supernatural entity, possibly connected to UFOs or interdimensional phenomena. It's actually really fucking funny to me how often people just lump together cryptid creatures and UFOs. They're just like, hey, they're synonymous with each other, right? Just fucking, there was even a hotline at one point. I was listening to a book. They were talking about this hotline specifically tailored to those who saw both UFOs and Bigfoot creatures at the same time together. So usually it was a Bigfoot teleporting down from or back up to a spacecraft is what most of these sightings were these Bigfoot creatures coming off of fucking UFOs. Ridiculous in my fucking... Sure, I would love to see and know that there are other intelligent beings out there in the universe, not on our planet, but it's another thing like Bigfoot, until there is definitive, hardcore, 100% fucking proof, they come down, they knock on your door, and they give you a fucking welcome to the galaxy present or some shit, like, whatever. I'm not going to believe it. I'm not going to entirely embrace it. I love hearing stories of mysterious, creepy, eerie, macabre fucking sightings and experiences, but it's hard for me to fully believe. The book connected the sightings to the Silver Bridge tragedy, cementing Mothman's reputation as a forewarning of catastrophe. So, what are some possible explanations? Skeptical people often come up with explanations that are a little bit more reasonable than just like, hey, this fucking crazy 7-foot moth dude was flying around killing people. So, a sandhill crane, possibly? Ornithologists proposed that witnesses might have mistaken Mothman for a sandhill crane, a large bird with a wingspan up to 7 feet and red markings around its eyes. But many witnesses described Mothman as distinctly humanoid and much larger than a crane. Sandhill cranes, you'll see them walking around and shit every once in a while, especially up here. They're not huge creatures. I mean, they have big wingspan. They are, 4 foot tall or something like that. But they are muscular. They're very skinny. They're very frail looking creatures. It looks like you could fucking grab them by the neck and wring their neck pretty easily. So I don't know. I don't know because it also doesn't have very humanoid featuristics. It does, is bipedal. It walks on 2 legs, but it doesn't have arms. It doesn't have muscles. It doesn't have a fucking 7-foot height to it. Like, I don't know. Barn owl, this is often one. It's a very common theory that people put towards flying cryptid creatures. Some believe misidentifications of large owls in low light could account for glowing red eyes and the creature's flight patterns. Many flying-type cryptids are often theorized as being barn owls. So it's a very common theory that barn owls are numerous of the flying cryptid creatures. And, it's a possibility. Barn owls are definitely larger. They look a little bit more massive than the sandhill crane, but they're not as tall. So they do have a great wingspan. They have a large wingspan. They are a little bit bulkier because of all their feathers. But in reality, they don't really have any height to them. They're only a couple feet tall, maybe 3 feet at most. So I don't know. I don't know what people would be seeing that's 7 feet tall unless 2 of these owls were like standing on each other's shoulders to fucking freak people out or something. And as far as I know, that's not something owls are doing. Like, hey, let's prank these fuckers out here, stupid assholes out in the woods at nighttime. Let's climb on my shoulders, dude. We're gonna look fucking huge. We're gonna be giant. We're gonna be the biggest owl they've ever seen. They're like, oh my god, it's Mothman, dude. No, it's not Mothman. It's just some owls that are being assholes and playing tricks on people. Don't worry about it. Just some asshole owls. So, psychologists suggest that fear and media sensationalism amplified these sightings and reports, creating a shared myth. Paranormal interpretations include that Mothman is often considered a supernatural warning of impending disaster, such as the Silver Bridge collapse of 1967. Alleged sightings of similar creatures have been linked to other disasters also, such as the Chernobyl meltdown and the 9/11 attacks. So apparently there have been sightings or reported sightings of creatures during or before, I should say, the incidents, other disasters like Chernobyl or 9/11. I've never heard that before, actually. I did not know that anyone saw some sort of weird creatures in the times previous to 9/11, and that it could have been some sort of harbinger of doom or a warning sign that something was impending to come in the future. Very interesting. Kind of interesting, kind of weird, but... So, With that, though, what other things could it be? Some cryptozoologists and ufologist? It has to be ufologist. Some cryptozoologists and ufologists argue that Mothman could be an extraterrestrial being or a being from another dimension, citing reports of UFO activity in Point Pleasant during the same period. And then there's a folklore guardian or spirit. So local Native American legends, particularly those of the Shawnee, include tales of bird-like spirits associated with protection or warning, some linking these stories to the Mothman. And, that would definitely tie into each other if it's a spirit that is associated with protection or warning. It could be trying to protect these people from the impending bridge collapse that happened over a year after its first sighting. Very unlikely, but hey, you never know. Never know. As with the other cryptids, Mothman has been featured in much popular culture, books, films, tourism festivals, a whole bunch of shit. The Mothman Prophecies, the book written by John Keel, was adapted into a 2002 film starring Richard Gere, which dramatized the events in Point Pleasant. Numerous books, documentaries, and podcasts continue to explore Mothman's story, like we're doing right fucking now. Point Pleasant has embraced its cryptid fame with an annual Mothman Festival, attracting thousands of visitors every year in September, and they do have a 12-foot stainless steel Mothman statue, complete with glowing red eyes, that stands in the center of town. Mothman has also appeared in video games like Fallout 76, which is one of my girlfriend's favorites. Loves playing it. They have the Mothman, they have the Wendigo, they might have another cryptid or two. A lot of the Appalachia fucking monsters and cryptids are features in there, and has also been featured in shows like Mountain Monsters, blending its lore with other cryptid stories. There have also been other sightings, such as the Chicago Mothman between 2011 and 2017. Reports of a similar creature emerged in Chicago, Illinois, describing a winged humanoid with glowing red eyes. These sightings reignited interest in Mothman, though many remain skeptical of their authenticity. And Mothman remains a symbol of the unknown, blending fear, curiosity, and the human tendency to seek meaning in unexplained events. So finally, the history of Mothman is fascinating. It's a fascinating blend of local legend, unexplained phenomena, and cultural fascination. Whether a misidentified bird, a supernatural being, or a collective hallucination, like ergot poisoning or something like that, Mothman continues to captivate imaginations and inspire stories. And that was definitely a popular one just throughout time. Ergot poisoning has definitely come up in numerous scenarios. In Salem witch trials, in fucking the dancing plague, in so many things, ergot poisoning could have played a factor. Ergot is some sort of rye, I think it is, and it's a mold that grows on rye, on some sort of bread. It grows on bread. People who can't afford, better bread, eat this shitty bread that has this mold on it. You can get infected. It can cause hallucinations. Ergot's not something to fuck with. After Mothman, though, what are we going to go to? Who could forget the Wendigo? Another one that is featured in Fallout 76, like I mentioned. One that we mentioned earlier when we were talking about Bigfoot. Rooted in indigenous folklore, the Wendigo embodies greed and cannibalism, often described as a gaunt, skeletal figure with glowing eyes. Some legends say it's a spirit that possesses humans during times of famine, driving them to commit unspeakable acts. Spooky, right? Creepy. Definitely weird. The Wendigo, also spelled Wendigo or Wetiko, is a terrifying creature deeply rooted in the folklore and spiritual beliefs of various indigenous tribes of North America, particularly among Algonquin-speaking peoples, often described as a malevolent, cannibalistic spirit or monstrous being. The Wendigo represents greed, corruption, and the perils of unrestrained consumption. Its legend has evolved over centuries, blending traditional oral histories with modern interpretations. The Wendigo originates in the mythology of Algonquin-speaking tribes, including the Cree, Ojibwe, Suto? It might be Suto. I'm going to say Suto. It's spelled like Sault Ste. Marie, Saulteaux, Suto. Innu and others. These indigenous peoples inhabited regions of the northern United States and Canada, where the harsh winters and scarcity of resources influenced their worldviews. So what is the purpose of the myth behind the Wendigo? The Wendigo served as a cautionary tale, warning against selfishness, gluttony, and the taboo of cannibalism. It was often invoked during times of famine to discourage individuals from resorting to desperate and morally abhorrent acts. While descriptions vary among tribes, common features included an emaciated and skeletal with ash-gray or decaying skin, glowing eyes and sharp teeth. Some describe it as a humanoid figure with antlers or deer-like features, while others envision it as a shadowy, spectral entity. So like Shadow Realm, shadow people creeping up on you at fucking night, creepy bastard-ass people. I love my shadow people, though. Love all of you, everyone who's fucking checked out the Patreon, anyone who's here listening to an episode, if you're listening to an episode, you're all my shadow people, and I appreciate the fuck out of you, so thank you for being here. Thank you for being my shadow people. A particular stench, pungent like a skunk, but somewhat sweet and alluring also. And the behavior would include insatiable hunger for human flesh. It could either be a physical monster or a spirit that possessed individuals, driving them to the acts of cannibalism and murder. The Wendigo is more than a literal monster. It symbolizes unchecked greed and the consequences of losing one's humanity. It also represents the imbalance between humans and nature, particularly during the times of environmental stress. So when resources were limited, when access to the environment was limited due to the season, the weather, anything of that nature, during those times of environmental stress, it really represented the imbalance between humans and nature, and how humans would eventually attack each other if nature couldn't provide for them. In some tales, a person becomes a Wendigo after engaging in cannibalism, even under extreme circumstances. Others suggest that greed, selfishness, or isolation in the wilderness could spiritually corrupt an individual, allowing the Wendigo to possess them. And if you've ever heard Albert Blackwood's, probably not the right name. There's a book, though, called The Wendigo, and I think it's Albert Blackwood. I'll talk about it in just a minute here. But that book, it's a creepy book, and they talk about this dude who, they're out camping, a couple of guys, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, and the other dude's just gone. And he tries to follow this path and tries to find the guy, and he can't find him. And there's tracks in the mud, and there's these tracks that are huge and definitely not made by the person. And there's tracks next to it which are definitely made by the person, but the strides are like 8 feet apart, and it looks like he's fucking doing long jumps as he's running. It's like crazy. It's crazy what they talk about. And then the way the guy acts when he finally returns to the group seems like he's fucking possessed. So he might have been spiritually corrupted, or the wilderness, the isolation got to him, and the Wendigo fucking took him over, you know? Wendigo stories were passed down through oral traditions as moral lessons to promote community cooperation and selflessness. They also served as a method of social control, discouraging individuals from hoarding resources or abandoning their communities during hardship. So instead of going out on your own to be isolated in wilderness, you should stick with your fucking people and just, deal with the hardship and get through it. And instead of being possessed by the Wendigo, you can just, hang out with the homies at home, even if you're fucking starving. So, stories of the Wendigo date back centuries and were commonly told during the winter months when famine and isolation were most acute. So when that was most likely to happen, they would tell these stories to really, fucking bury it in people's skin. Bury it under your skin, dig deep into your mind, and just lay the fucking Wendigo seed in there. These tales often recount encounters with malevolent spirits in the forest or individuals succumbing to madness and cannibalistic urges. Early reports of the Wendigo included French fur traders and missionaries who recorded Wendigo legends while interacting with indigenous communities in Canada. They described it as a horrifying creature haunting the wilderness and noted its connection to the taboo of cannibalism. So always been associated one-on-one with cannibalism and, greed and things of that nature. And it's early fur traders from France even tied that together with a lot of the stories that they were told. Some historical accounts detailed cases of Wendigo psychosis, where individuals in indigenous communities exhibited symptoms of delusional cannibalistic cravings, even when food was available. So these people just wanted to eat another human being, even when there was plenty surpluses of food. They just took down all the crops. They just caught 16 buffalo. They just chopped up 20 salmon, and still this person wants to eat fucking food. They want food. Just eat some food, yeah, regular food. Just cut up a dude, eat the food, and yeah. So they still wanted to perform cannibalism even when there was food available, but... So Wendigo psychosis, what is it? It's a condition identified by early European anthropologists and psychologists. Wendigo psychosis was described as a cultural-bound syndrome among indigenous peoples. Symptoms included an intense craving for human flesh, paranoia, delusions, and social withdrawal. Some notable cases included Swift Runner in 1878, a Cree trapper in Alberta, Canada. Swift Runner murdered and consumed his family during the winter despite having access to emergency food supplies nearby. So very close, there was food, and instead of venturing out just to get this food that was close by, he decided to kill his whole family and eat them instead. He claimed to have been possessed by a Wendigo, and his case became one of the most infamous examples of Wendigo psychosis. And then moving forward about 30 years, in 1907, Jack Fiddler, a Cree shaman in Ontario, Jack Fiddler was known for his ability to cure people possessed by Wendigos. He and his brother, though, were arrested for murdering individuals they believed were transforming into Wendigos. So they're like, oh, fuck, it's a Wendigo! Oh, shit! He's gonna eat me! Pow, 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 pow! Shoot him with my fucking... Pull out a Glock. Somehow they just fucking have a Glock 9 back then. Pull out their Glock 9 and shoot him in the face, or... probably more likely, like, stab him with a knife or shoot him with an arrow or something. Draw him, quarter him with horses, tie a rope around each leg and each arm and use 4 horses to quarter this bastard, pull his legs and his arms off. Something like that. Who knows? I don't know. They were murdering people that they thought were Wendigos, though, and they got arrested for it. So modern psychology debates whether Wendigo psychosis was a genuine condition or a misinterpretation of starvation-induced psychosis or cultural stigma. There's a stigma in the indigenous people's culture that Wendigo was able to overtake someone and cause them to go crazy or cause them to have this psychosis. And while the psychosis was truly linked with other things such as lack of food or nutrients or, not being able to have enough supplies to live a life properly, they always attributed it to the Wendigo, and someone was just being possessed by the Wendigo and eventually would just turn into a cannibal and fucking eat people. Some argue that it reflects the psychological stress of extreme famine conditions, which I think is probably more likely than a supernatural creature taking over people that wants them to perform cannibalistic acts and eat their family and shit. Over time, the Wendigo has evolved from a spiritual cautionary figure into a pop cultural icon, often portrayed as a physical monster. In these depictions, the creature is often exaggerated with features like antlers, a deer skull, or a more animalistic appearance. In literature and film, Algernon Blackwoods, that's the person I was trying to think of her earlier. I think I said Albert Blackfoot. Algernon Blackwood's The Wendigo from 1910. It's kind of a creepy fucking story. I listened to an audiobook that was on Amazon Music or Amazon whatever. This short story popularized the Wendigo in Western literature, portraying it as a supernatural force in the Canadian wilderness. And like I said, these dudes go camping, and the one guy disappears in the middle of the night, and when he comes back, he's acting fucking really strange, very odd, very offbeat, and creepy for sure. Later on, in Stephen King's Pet Sematary, the book, not the movie, it's not in the movie, but in 1983 when the book was released, the novel features a Wendigo as a malevolent force responsible for the cursed burial ground. So the initial reason that this burial ground where these pets come back from is cursed to begin with is because of a Wendigo, a malevolent force that brings these animals back from the dead to eat other animals and to eat people. And then in movies and television, the Wendigo appears in various films like Antlers and Ravenous, and TV shows such as Supernatural and Hannibal. And like I said earlier, it also appears in video games like Fallout 76, and it's featured in a lot of modern literature, film, shows, and games. But the Wendigo has been reinterpreted as a symbol of human greed and environmental destruction. It reflects the dangers of overconsumption and losing harmony with nature. And that's pretty much it for the Wendigo. It's a creepy spirit. It's a creepy creature, sometimes portrayed as having antlers or deer-like features to it, animalistic features, but often is just referred to as the spirit that can overtake people and force them into greed and cannibalism and overconsumption and so many of the true sins of the world, things of that nature, the taboo sins, the very things that are looked down upon the most in the world, the Wendigo can make you do and make you become that person. It's interesting. But tonight, today, whatever it is when you're listening, right now, what I want to talk to you about more than any of these other cryptid creatures, more than Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and fucking goddamn Wendigo or Mothman or Dover Demon or Jersey Devil or any of this shit. The thing I want to talk about the very most is a cryptid you've probably likely never heard of before. I didn't hear about it before I did my research. I surely had never heard of it. It's a creature whose legend has just begun to take shape recently. There's more and more sightings as the time has passed in recent years, but before 2000, there wasn't really ever a single sighting of this creature, so it's peculiar, with most encounters being recounted in the past few years. It's a creature that is derived from the state where I live, Michigan, and that's the Mishigama serpent is what it's called. Mishigama, a word derived from the Ojibwe word Mishigami, meaning great water, is a nod to Lake Superior, the largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area, and the third largest freshwater lake by volume. Lake Superior holds 13% of the freshwater in all of the world's rivers and lakes, with an average depth of 483 feet and a maximum depth of 1,333 feet. This is the alleged home of this mysterious beast, the Mishigama serpent. All right, and so we have the Mishigama serpent. The Mishigama serpent is said to be a massive serpentine creature with iridescent scales that shimmer in shades of green, blue, and silver. Eyewitnesses describe its dragon-like head, sharp ridges along its back, and haunting, glowing eyes that pierce through the lake's foggy surface. Some claim to have seen it coil through the waters during storms, while most reports have recounted eerie screeches echoing across the lake at night. So not one people see a whole lot, don't have any true sightings, but sometimes some large animal that is coiling through the water during storms, or eerie screeches that are hard to pinpoint exactly what animal is causing them, and often are associated with the Mishigama serpent. One chilling story comes from a group of kayakers in 2018. They describe seeing a dark shape moving beneath their boats, far larger than any fish native to Lake Superior. One even claimed to have felt a powerful current, as if something enormous had brushed past them. So, when something goes by you real quick in the water, you can feel the water underneath move. You can feel the current pull you or push you in some way. So this creature apparently went by these kayakers, and they felt the current that was like the drag from behind this creature actually pull their kayak a little bit more, or force their kayak in a certain direction. So, what's fascinating about the Mishigama serpent is how it ties to existing indigenous legends of water spirits. The Anishinaabe people speak of The Anishinaabe people speak of Mishabishu, a horned water panther said to guard the Great Lakes. Could the Mishigama serpent be a modern manifestation of this ancient myth, or is it something entirely new, lurking in the uncharted depths? And, Lake Superior has definitely been charted, but it's an incredibly deep lake. 1333 as the deepest point. Something could hide in there. I'm sure that there's some weird underwater cave or something that is kind of hidden and unknown of. There's probably some unknown parts of Lake Superior. Maybe it hides underneath one of the islands. There's the Apostle Islands. There's not Presque Isle, fucking bitch ass Isle Royale. There we go. Isle Royale. There's the Apostle Islands. There's still a couple other islands beyond that. There's Grand Island. There's a lot of islands in Lake Superior. A lot of places for serpents to hide. And like I said, if there's any cryptid creature that I would believe in, it's one that is in water. Loch Ness probably not as much because it's been so popular and people have searched for so long to try and truly identify it with no results. But other bodies of water, Great Lakes, like huge, I don't mean the Great Lakes, but large lakes, gigantic lakes like Lake Superior and ocean areas like that, something could hide in there for sure. Some unknown species, some weird creepy creature, some cryptid being, something of that nature could definitely be hiding. And that's really all we know about the Mishigama serpent. It's a very little known cryptid creature. It's one that I really wanted to touch on because it's located here in Michigan. There are some other ones here in Michigan also. The Michigan Wolfman. There's some other serpent creature in one of the other Great Lakes, if I'm not mistaken, or a lake-based creature. But with that, let's take a detour into some oddly scary facts about cryptids and cryptozoology before heading into today's main marks. So, did you know? We touched on it earlier, we talked about it just a tiny bit, but Gigantopithecus, a prehistoric ape, stood over 10 feet tall and may have inspired Bigfoot legends. And the New Jersey Devil. According to the legend, Mother Leeds was a resident of Estelle, New Jersey. She was pregnant for the 13th time and became distraught. In a moment of frustration, she cursed the then unborn child, saying, "Let it be the devil." The child was born normally, naturally, but then transformed over the years into a creature with wings, hooves, a tail, and a goat's head. The child then flew up the chimney and into the pine forest. Good old Pineys. Look at me now. Fucking reminds me of Dan Cummins. It reminds me of Time Suck. They're stupid. Look at me now. Here we go. Whatever the fuck he says about being a piney person. Has a little fucking jingle song that he does. Makes me laugh every time. This creature, though, is known as the Jersey Devil. The 13th child, born on the 13th, became the devil, was cursed by its mother, crazy shit like that. So there's the Jersey Devil. There is Bigfoot. There's Gigantopithecus. There's so much shit out there that has been true, has actually, was actually something at one point. Gigantopithecus is proven. It's an ape that stood over 10 feet tall. That's fucking scary. I could not even imagine being out in the wild and running into a fucking primate that was twice my height, pretty much. 10 feet fucking tall. I'm 5'9". I can't even imagine having to look up on a gigantic fucking ape. It reminds me of like Planet of the Apes or King Kong or something of that nature. It also reminds me of this game that I used to play when I was younger on PlayStation. I think it was called Rampage, where you played as an ape and you like tore apart the city and ate people and destroyed food carts, and terrible graphics, but a lot of fun. That game was a ton of fun. And here's a thought that might keep you up at night. Only 5 to 20% of the world's oceans and lakes have been explored. So who really knows what's out there? Like I said, the ocean's so vast. There's so many lakes out there in the world. You got the fucking Minnesota or whatever, the land of 10,000 lakes. Land of lakes, it literally fucking is. So many lakes out there. The ocean is so vast. There's so much that has been unexplored. So who knows what's really out there? There could be hundreds of thousands of cryptid creatures out there, or creepy, crawly, interesting creatures that we still have yet to uncover. So But with that, let's get out of here and bounce into today's main marks.
Don't you know how it go? Doesn't show, never throw with them. Main marks. Main marks. Main marks. Main marks. Main marks.
Number 1, cryptozoology. The term comes from the Greek words cryptos, meaning hidden, and zoology, meaning the study of animals. So in short, cryptozoology is the study of hidden animals. Number 2, Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is an ape-like creature that has been spotted in the dense forests of North America for centuries. Reports describe it as a towering figure, often over 8 feet tall, usually between 7 and 10 feet tall, covered in thick hair and possessing a distinct, powerful odor. Number 3, the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed during rush hour traffic in 1967, killing 46 people. Many have attributed this collapse to Mothman, whether directly or indirectly, whether Mothman actually caused it or whether he was just the harbinger of doom and knew about it prior to the collapse. It has been attributed to Mothman. Number 4, the most famous image associated with Nessie, the surgeon's photograph, was taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson. It depicts a long neck and head emerging from the water. In 1994, 6 decades afterwards, it was revealed to be a hoax involving a toy submarine and a fake neck, but the image remains iconic and the most famous image of Nessie. Number 5. Eyewitnesses have described a creature with a dragon-like head, sharp ridges along its back, and haunting, glowing eyes that pierce through Lake Superior's foggy surface. The Mishigama Serpent is said to be a massive serpentine creature with iridescent scales that shimmer in shades of green, blue, and silver, similar to that of an abalone shell. So if you've ever seen an abalone shell, whether it's at like a metaphysical shop or, like my girlfriend and I, when we went to California a couple of years back, we actually found an abalone shell on the beach and we kept it, which we weren't supposed to do, but we did. But abalone shell, very awesome looking shell, has these shades of like this pink, green, blue, silver that shimmers back at you. It's awesome looking. But apparently, the scales of the Mishigama serpent are similar to that green, blue, and silver iridescent scales. And number 6, new information. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of cryptid creatures in the world. Creatures such as the New Jersey Devil, the Flatwoods Monster, Lizard Man, Ogopogo, and the Mongolian Deathworm, just to name a couple. They are just a few of the countless monsters that lurk around in the universe, somewhere just beneath the shadows. And with that, we've tackled quite a few cryptids today. We've touched base on a lot of the popular ones. We've dug into some of the less popular ones just a tiny bit, and we've really dug into cryptozoology and what it's about. So now, let's head on out of our main marks, and let's finish up today's episode with our final takeaways. So, why are people so fascinated by cryptids? Is it the thrill of the unknown? The possibility that something extraordinary might just exist beyond the veil of our understanding? Or is it because these creatures tap into our primal fears? Fear of the dark, fear of the wilderness, fear of being hunted, fear of the unknown, things of that nature. Is it something that these creatures tap into? Is it something about the folklore and the legend behind them? Perhaps cryptids remind us that the world is still full of mystery, and that's intriguing to a lot of people. In an age of satellites and smartphones, the idea that there are still creatures hiding in the shadows gives us a sense of wonder, a sense of intrigue, and, a sense of excitement. And maybe, just maybe, some of these legends hold kernels of truth. Some of them might have a basis of truth in reality. Some of them might be based on true things that did happen or were once existent in this world. And that's creepy enough. That's creepy enough to keep people coming back. And that's creepy enough to end on. So, as we wrap up tonight's episode, I want to encourage you to keep an open mind. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic or somewhere in between, Cryptids remind us all of the beauty and terror of the unknown. And who knows, the next time you're in the Pacific Northwest, in West Virginia, or near Lake Superior, keep an eye out for the strange and mysterious. You might just catch a glimpse of Bigfoot, Mothman, or another cryptid like the Mishigama Serpent. Keep your eyes out. Keep them peeled. Stay safe, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the shadows. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, don't forget to follow Beneath the Shadows on Instagram and Patreon for more spine-tingling content. Remember to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Please leave a rating and review. It takes a couple of minutes and it helps immensely. I appreciate the fuck out of all of you. And now, until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep looking beneath the shadows.
The darkness will grow, the spirits and ghosts, and all the lights is for snow, just beneath the shadows.